Hi, I'm Larry Menti. Welcome to Another Thing. The Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, is still one of the most controversial issues in the country. It's been a year now since the launch, and it's still getting mixed reviews. More Americans have health care than ever before, but at what cost? The fight over the future of Obamacare will once again take center stage in Congress this year as Republicans attempt to repeal the law. Ellen Kaloje takes a closer look at the future of the healthcare marketplace that we've all learned to hate or love. Ellen.
Could 2015 be the year the Republicans repeal all or part of the Affordable Care Act? The new Senate Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell, says his top priority is to dismantle Obamacare. Senator Ted Cruz says the GOP will attack it piece by piece until they deal it a fatal blow. But a local newly elected congressman from Pennsylvania says not so fast.
As long as President Obama's in the White House, I think the chances are really small. And frankly, I imagine that most people are the same way I am, a little sick and tired of fighting the same fight 6-7 years down the line.
Congressman Brendan Boyle says the Democrats are willing to make small changes to health care reforms in 2015, but he insists Obamacare is a success.
So I would much prefer to listen to experts on this issue, be open to making adaptations where necessary, but at the same time recognize that the law has been working. Right now, the rate of uninsured in America is the lowest that has ever been in our nation's history, and the cost of health care is rising at the lowest level in 40 years.
At least for now, Obamacare is still the law of the land, and it could really affect all of our taxes for this year. The tax code has changed more because of the Affordable Care Act than in the last 20 years. And that's why H&R Block has been running a lot of ads telling people to come on in and get some help.
There are some 46 changes involved in this, and 2014 is the mandate for everybody to have coverage, pay a penalty, have this reconciliation. Some people who've been able to use a 1040EZ are going to have to use a more complicated form. It's the time to get somebody who really understands this law to help you through it.
So the accountants are lining up to help you navigate Obamacare for your taxes, and the politicians are gearing up for a fight, and they're especially eyeing a Supreme Court ruling that's expected in June on the constitutionality on certain parts of that law. But no matter what happens in Congress, the president would have to sign off on any changes to Obamacare, of course, and that's not likely to happen. Reporting for Another Thing, I'm Ellen Kaloje.
All right, thank you, Ellen. Now to talk more about the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare, and you can tell me which one we're supposed to use, is Mike Diamond, who is a business writer for the Asbury Park Press, and David Oscar is a benefits consultant for Altegro. So what do? You use Obamacare or do you use Affordable Care Act? Does it depend on your political leaning that you get to use one or the other?
We use both. I think it's pretty widely used as Obamacare, so we do that, but I also refer to it as the full name, the Affordable Care Act, Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act.
Yeah, and you were pointing out the president. Go ahead.
The president uses Obamacare. I use Obamacare, but it depends on who I'm talking to and what audience it is.
Okay, and so it be decided we can use Obamacare for the rest of the interview. I know you just did a story in the Asbury Park Press about the Affordable Care Act, specifically in New Jersey. How's it going?
Right, so this is the second open enrollment period for Obamacare, and it seems to be going pretty well. They don't have the computer glitches that they had last year. Sign-ups are pretty brisk. They have more than 100,000 people in New Jersey have signed up. 80% of them are getting subsidies, and yeah, so far they're kind of avoiding the nightmare that was last year.
Well, in the sign-up, but some of the costs we'll talk about in a second, but let's expand the conversation to both Pennsylvania and New York. Yep. Your company deals with all three. Take us through the three.
So the three, Pennsylvania is the same kind of issues that were last year. This year they're easier because the feds took away a lot of the issues that occurred. New York has been streamlined ever since the beginning, so New York has been a breeze. They have a much more limited amount of products to offer, so it's a lot easier to deal with in New York. And their exchange has a lot more functionality.
And that's specifically because they have a Democratic, because Andrew Cuomo is the governor, they have a Democratic governor, and there were Republican governors in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. That's the problem?
That's one of the problems. The Democratic governor in New York chose to do a state exchange. So they created it themselves. They knew what they needed to do. They had a smaller population to deal with systems. Where in Pennsylvania and New Jersey, we're using the federal exchange. The federal government did not realize how many people were going to use the federal exchange. So they were not building the system as robust as they initially should have. Now that they've gone through the initial enrollment period, figured out what issues were there, they've come out with a much cleaner site. I've enrolled this month about 20 people, 30 people through the federal website. It is 100 times better than it was last year.
To quote Jon Stewart, you can't say we need the Affordable Care Act because there's so many people that are uninsured and then be surprised how many people sign up that are uninsured. It was the best line about the Affordable Care Act.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about the cost, starting with New Jersey, specifically in New Jersey. Is it costing people more than they thought it would?
I think that's kind of the big surprise. So you have folks who are coming into the system for the first time, even people who have had insurance for a long time. Part of the idea of Obamacare is to start slowing down the cost of health care, which had been growing by double digits every year.
Has that happened?
It has started to happen. It's growing at the slowest pace in I think 50 years.
Every report I see say it's not happening. Every report I see saying premiums are going up, deductibles are higher, but you're saying that you see it coming down or just slowing the rate? But
it's slowing the rate. So, and one of the reasons it seems to be slowing the rate is that people now are having to pay a lot of money out of their own pocket. So they have to make the decision, should I go to the doctor? It's going to be expensive. I'm going to have to pay for it. A lot of the plans out there have deductibles. That's the money you spend out of your pocket before insurance picks up the cost. And they can be $2,000, $2,500. So for the first couple doctor's visits, you're probably going to have to pay for it out of your own pocket.
It sounds like we can slow the rate as long as you pay more in a deductible.
As long as you get more responsibility. When you, as the consumer, take the responsibility from the insurance carrier, your premiums become less. Because money, as we all know, doesn't grow on trees. So how does the insurance carrier get their money? Premium dollars. So if they don't use premium dollars to pay expenses because you have a $2,500 deductible or a $5,000 deductible coming out of your pocket, your premium can be cheap. A 27-year-old can pay $150 for a health plan, but their deductible, $6,600.
Now, most people you talk to, do they feel this system's better than what we had?
It depends who they are.
Yeah. How about the people that have to pay?
Well, okay, a couple things. The point of the law was they had a couple points. One was to insure people who didn't have insurance, and on that count, I think it's working very well. The rate of uninsured in New Jersey apparently has declined from like 20% to about 10% just in 1 year. The other part is slowing the rate of healthcare, the growth of healthcare costs, and that gets tricky because everybody out there wants the best technology, the best care. They want to be able to go to the doctor whenever they want. But there's an expense to that, and the question is, well, how are we going to pay for it? So the question of, is it working and are people happy with it are two different questions, because it is asking people to make some sacrifices.
Well, and it seems like you made 2 points, and they're connected. Because you're saying that it's now insuring more people, but the rates are going up and some people are not getting the best care that they feel that they can get. And so isn't this group paying for this group?
To some extent, yeah. But also this group here that's getting more insurance or more, the rate of Medicaid expansion in New Jersey and in the other states has caused this group to grow. It's not necessarily grown because they've gotten a traditional carrier, like a Blue Cross carrier.
When we say this group, we mean the formerly uninsured.
The formerly uninsured. There was a lot of those formerly uninsured that did not have access to coverage. Because in New Jersey, for example, when Medicaid expanded to include more than just women and children, and it just included people who at a certain income level, that expansion created a lot of room, or that change created a lot of room for people to get insurance.
Right.
So now you've got a large pool of people who are on Medicaid, and the people who are on traditional carriers are offsetting those costs.
Okay, thank you so much. Mike Diamond, who is the business writer for the Asbury Park Press. Look forward to reading more of your stuff. And David Oscar, who is a benefits consultant for El Tigre. When we come back, we're going to continue to talk about Obamacare and really dive into the politics of it when Another Thing continues.